Welcome back, I'm Rob Lang and this is my game Clomper. You live inside a mechanical ladybird called a Clomper, which you can control by laying pipes to power machines with steam. The outside world is a hellscape that you explore from inside the Clomper, picking up resources and completing quests. If that sounds like fun, like and subscribe for more. I'm now in the middle of multiplayer testing, so I'm going to explain the steps, tools and quality measures I use. Game devs don't make videos on testing, which is a shame because quality assurance is the only way you're going to avoid your game launch from being notable for all the wrong reasons. I want a game with no bugs is a laudable but impossible goal, so you must choose what quality level you're happy with because perfect is the enemy of done. My original game goal was, and still is, to create a game that is fun to play with my friends, so my quality goal is to make a game that doesn't waste that precious Sunday evening game session. With that in mind, I needed a test plan which goes something like this: get to code complete, regression test, lag test, LAN test, remote play test over port forwarding, and then the 3-player test. Code complete is when I believe that all the features are working between the client and server locally. I achieved that about 3 weeks ago. A regression test is where you methodically test every feature in the game to make sure your new code hasn't inadvertently broken old code. Netcode is by design threaded throughout the entire codebase, so I knew that features would have been broken. For a regression test, I use a Trello template card with checklists for each feature. Each list item is an individual test with just enough information for me to understand what's going on. To create a new test run, I hit Create Card from Template and then work down the new card. Any bugs I find go into GitHub projects as a note with the steps to reproduce, and then I move on to the next test item. I don't fix bugs as I go along unless there's a huge one that stops testing. Mirror does not have any inbuilt lag compensation. Clomper is not a competitive game, so it doesn't matter if one client is a little out of sync with the others. However, some bugs can be masked by having a low latency when you're testing with 2 clients on one computer. I used Clumsy to mimic a poor network connection. Link in the description. Clumsy showed me that holding objects had some jerky issues that I had to come back to. At this point, I was confident that the game is stable, but no plan survives contact with the users. If your game doesn't have a tutorial yet, then make sure you set clear goals for your tests. For this test, I used Game Breaker Extraordinaire, my son Felix. The goal was to start a quest, pick it up, and take it to the delivery point. To begin with, he filled the room with steam, then tried to use pipes to push himself out of the Clomper, and so on. The pipe layout worked, but was utter chaos. With him as captain and me as driver, we set off across the landscape. We played for a couple of hours and it was good fun. I discovered that the quest item was a long way away, so I used command line tools to jump to it. If your game is complex, then a developer console is a great way to get it to a specific state that you can test more quickly. So we'll return to the glitch that I noticed on the lag test. It happened when a player would drop an item, and as it fell, it would jitter its position. The jitter was caused by setting kinematics when the client gave control back to the server. Let me explain. In my original system, when the player drops an object, the server takes control by switching on physics, or turning off kinematics. Then it tells the client to switch off physics, turning on kinematics. There is a brief lag between server and client making the switch, so for a short time both server and client were trying to use physics to control the object. That's where the jitter came from. You can't set client and server simultaneously without almost writing prediction, reconciliation, input buffering, time travel and so on. I do understand what needs to be done, but to build it in Mirror would take too long. So I needed another way. I'm fortunate to have a regular Discord dialogue with First Gear Games, and as I'm a Patreon, I got to use his mirror component assets. They were easy to get to work and the examples were very helpful. My specific use case of handing over physics control and being on the inside of a mesh collider meant I couldn't use it. I may head back to it in the future. Thanks First Gear Games, you are awesome. Links for everyone in the description. I was pretty stuck at this point. Either I write a lot more netcode, which is not building the game, or I settle for only calculating physics on the server. The downside of doing that is that the object doesn't move sharply as if the player was holding it in their hand, but instead slides around as if on the end of an invisible spring, which it is. Seeing as Clomper is cooperative in every way, that's a compromise I'm willing to make. The penultimate test was to ensure that someone outside my home network could connect to a host on my computer. Without using a special transport layer like Steam, you need to set up port forwarding on your router and find out your IP. With that done, I invited my much maligned friend, Big Rob, who connected without a problem and laid down a load of pipes instinctively. It worked! The final test, which deserves a video of its own, was with Big Rob and 2 other chums. The aim was to find out if the game was fun, if Clomper was worth continuing with. We barely scratched the surface of the game's features because there was a pretty nasty bug regarding quests and deleting pipes. I'll come back to this in a future video. It's wonderful at long last to share the game with my friends. We found bugs, but they'll get fixed soon enough. And it was a chaotic session, but it was a lot of fun. Thank you all for your support. Until next time, stay safe. Bye bye.